Okay, everybody, welcome back to Talk of the Now podcast. And today I've got a really cool guest on, local Atlanta celebrity, if you will, here, Mr. Steak Shapiro, who hosts the Atlanta Eats show that's on locally. Steak, how are you, sir? It's good to have you.
Awesome. So good. I mean, just getting to talk about all my favorite topics,
Man.
including myself, most important.
Well, I do appreciate your time and coming on with me here. My little, this is one of those things. I started a podcast because I wanted to have interesting guests and interesting people, and get to know some, especially some of the local Atlanta people.
So who canceled? Somebody must have canceled.
More like I'm begging people now.
Somebody canceled. You said maybe this guy Steak will do it. We need it.
Well, you know what, I tell you, I tried to get one of your former co-workers, Mr. Matt Chernoff, on. Haven't heard back from him yet, so we're hoping that maybe he'll come on at some point.
Yeah, well, he's got his own podcast going pretty well too, and he's busy with the Braves. But don't let anybody big dog you, dude. Right? You got to stay humble. Stay humble.
That's very true. I did have a guy named Ken Coleman on a few weeks ago. I don't know if you heard of Ken. He does a careers podcast through the Dave Ramsey. I'm sure you've heard of Dave Ramsey. He's like one of their personalities. But it was really good. Steak, if you could, for our audience here, kind of give us a little bit of your background. I'd love if you could kind of go through where you're from and how you grew up and that sort of thing, and what brought you to Atlanta.
So I've been in Atlanta 25 years. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Been down here 25 years. Been on radio and television for 25 years. Moved down here to be a sports talk radio host. And went to school in New Orleans at Tulane University, got my master's at Emerson in journalism, broadcast journalism. And then I moved to Atlanta because if you want to be a sports talk guy, Boston is like trying to say, I want to be on Broadway, my first acting job, right? It's not going to happen. Like that whole town is dominated by sports talk. It's the biggest topic in the city is sports.
Mm-hmm.
My 20s, I needed a chance to be on the air because I was really bad and I needed to get better. And the best way to get better is reps, right? The Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours. I needed to get some hours. So I moved to Atlanta in 1995, was fired within a year from doing mornings at 680 The Fan because the station got LMA, that means leased by another company. That company was Cox Communications, owns the AJC and WSB. And they hated sports talk because sports talk was critical of their teams and their properties and all that. And the first thing they did when they got the format was fire everybody. So I realized radio wasn't the most stable way to build a family and a new impending marriage coming up, and realizing I'd be moving every few years, and the program director didn't like your cut of your jib, or if the station was sold and you went from a sports station to a country station. Not. I know you think I sound like I'm from Valdosta, Georgia, but I actually am not. So that may not play in country radio. So bottom line was, I started my own radio station. I raised $1 million. Radio was hot back then. There was a signal available called WQXI. It was Quixie and Dixie back in the 70s, and we leased the station from the same folks that did Star 94. Owned it.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah. So I went from being unemployed on-air personality at 27 or maybe 28 years old to owner of $1 million business called 790 The Zone, where I was the on-air talent, head of marketing.
I remember that.
Program director, owner, and didn't know what the F I was doing. Can we swear on this?
Well, I try to keep it PG for the audience, but
okay, sorry.
If one slips out, it's all good.
We're on a podcast, dude. What do we care for swear? Anyway, so I basically had job security as an on-air talent because I own the company. So we then built up a 17-year run as one of the best sports stations in America.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta radio was booming in those days. We eventually sold the company, which was Big League Broadcasting. We had stations in St. Louis. We had stations in Atlanta. We owned a restaurant in Atlanta also called Stats. And we just had an amazing run. We were home of the Thrashers, home of Georgia Tech, home of the Falcons, like all these different flagship deals. And just had some of the greatest promotions, hired every top talent in Atlanta started at the Zone, just about. Buck Bellew, John Kincaid, Matt Chernoff, Chris Domino, Nick Cellini.
They were all at the Zone. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I hired him.
Wow.
Domino started somewhere else. He was at 680 with me.
Mhm.
We hired Chris Cotter, who now works for ESPN, L. Duncan at ESPN, Dennis Scott from TNT, David Pollock from ESPN, Bruce Pearl. All these guys were talk hosts on our station. Dave Archer, Wes Durham, Tony Barnhart, Two Live Stews, Mike Bell. All these guys came through the Zone. So we hired all of them. We did a great track record of being an independent, kick-ass, super edgy, fun sports talk station. Did that for 17 years. Sold the company, started a new company, Bread and Butter Content Studio, Bread and Butter LLC. Built out a local brand in Atlanta called Atlanta Eats, social, digital, TV. It's had amazing success, and then been on the radio at 680 for 7 years. They fired me over COVID, and me and John Kincaid were the two high-priced talent that got whacked. But luckily, I've always owned something, and we're building out this mini empire of content, and hopefully getting back on the radio and podcast soon as well. So hopefully that's enough of a background to let you know what I'm doing.
That's excellent. What was life like growing up in Massachusetts?
Great town, Newton, Massachusetts. 70s, so fun. Come home from school, drop your books, and go run up the street and play sports for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Somebody's mom would drive by the school and say your mom's looking for you or whatever it is, and then you have to big decision of whose ball is it? Are they going home with the ball, or do you trust that if they don't go home with the ball, then will they be there tomorrow? And do you trust that you can rinse and repeat? Have a great group of friends I've been friends with for my buddies. I just saw a few weeks ago. Been friends since first grade. That's 47 years. Still my buddies. Huge sports fan. The reason I wanted to do sports talk radio is because Boston's such an amazing sports market. The dream since I was a little kid was to be on the radio, and just had a great suburban 1970s lifestyle. Parents were together for 50 years. Rode my bike and walked to every one of my schools, elementary, junior high, and high school. It was just a cool time, man. There were no cell phones, no social, they were just starting to play like Atari and in television and stuff. But we just were playing ball all the time. Like we just were obsessed with playing ball.
Getting in little fights and looking for a girlfriend, all that kind of stuff.
Just very 19, like if you watch that 70s show, if you watch
I remember
Goldberg's resembles us a lot. Had an older brother, he's a lawyer in Boston. And then ended up going away to school in New Orleans, but that was a great town, Newton, Massachusetts. It was just a really public schools were fantastic, very multicultural. Played basketball and lacrosse. A lot of inner city kids were bussed into our school, which was great in terms of building relationships in our, at school.
Yeah. And
I don't have a lot of tales of angst. We spent summers on Cape Cod when we could get out there, and was very, very fortunate, happy kid. So I lived with my grandparents, three generations. They're from Turkey. So we had 6 people in the house. My grandparents lived with us forever. My parents and me and my brother, 6 of us. So dinner every night together, 6 nights a week.
Oh, wow.
Obsessed with television. Know every show from the 70s and 80s, like a television savant freak. Was way into pop culture back then. So it was a nice. I was very, very blessed.
Is Newton, Massachusetts, a suburb of Boston? Yeah. I'm not even familiar. Okay.
It's 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Kind of a address. So Brookline is right next to Boston, and Newton's right next to that. So Newton alumni, John Krasinski went to my high school. I was his basketball coach.
Really?
Yeah, when he was 14, I was his hoop coach. Joe Rogan went to high school, same high school. Who else is it?
I didn't know Joe Rogan was from that part of the country.
He's from Newton. Louis C.K.'s from Newton. A lot of folks. A couple of big actress was my high school classmate. You ever watch The Wonderful Miss Maisel?
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a huge
Yeah.
show streaming, but you're a little young for that. How old are you?
I'm 45 actually. Yeah.
Okay, well,
So,
you know, that's
getting up
younger.
there.
The Wonderful Miss Maisel.
Yeah.
I'm just looking up famous new
Is the
people.
Barstool guy from Boston?
Yeah, he's from Boston. Sure, Dave.
Dave
Dave
Portnoy?
Portnoy.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
very, very similar upbringing. I mean, I think he was in Sharon or Swampscott,
Mhm.
and I was in Newton, same era. Bill Simmons, same thing. We all have that same 1980s reference mentality.
Yeah.
Huge Boston sports fans. Simmons, Portnoy, myself. Matt LeBlanc went to my high school also.
Matt LeBlanc. I remember him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
from
And of
yeah,
course,
Joey,
oh gosh,
Joey from Friends.
what's the Goodwill Hunting? Matt Damon, excuse me.
Damon and Affleck from
Yeah.
there, not the same town, but yeah, Boston has a lot. The Wahlbergs, all same generation.
I always forget
Damon,
about the
Affleck,
Wahlbergs.
Wahlberg, Rogan.
You ever met the Wahlberg boys?
I have not.
Yeah. I know they had, yeah.
Almost did a piece on them when they moved to the Battery with Wahlburgers.
Yeah.
But no.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I really want to go visit that area. I'm a huge history buff and I really want to get out there and see. I had a buddy a few years ago that was from Gloucestershire and
Yeah, Gloucester, Massachusetts. That is old school fishing town. That's where the movie Perfect Storm emanates from.
Oh, wow.
Phenomenal movie, by the way. Clooney and Wahlberg. Have you seen Perfect Storm?
you know what? It's not yet. I wanted to see it. I always forget about it.
See it. It's a tremendous piece of filmmaking. It's about this massive storm that those guys went through, and it's about a real classic fishing town in Boston, Gloucester, Massachusetts. And Clooney is tremendous in it. The whole cast is awesome.
I'm actually writing it down.
You know, there's just an incredible loyalty. If you noticed, and maybe I'm I don't know. I'm certainly showing my New England bias, but I'm going to say the word assholes. Like guys from Boston that are stars, they aren't that. Conan O'Brien is also from Brookline, the town right next to mine.
Really?
And him and Krasinski were doing a podcast. John Krasinski, you know that as of course.
Yeah.
From you know, now he's a huge director and Quiet Place and Office. It's like you can't act a fool and act like you're a big deal and come back home to Boston because they do not put up with it. So if you notice that Damon and, you know, even Mark Wahlberg, the way he's evolved, the kind of guy he is, and a lot of these guys, they don't have that Hollywood, you know, just jerk mentality. And there's a lot of celebs and comedians that come out of that area, a ton of comedians. And there's just a certain Boston hardcore way. And if you get too big for your britches, they cut you right down there.
Yeah.
And, you know, Matt Damon's one of the classic, like he's as big a movie star as there is. Marry, I think a bartender or a waitress that he met.
Oh, yeah.
Family. You never see him. He has zero interest in you know, paparazzi and being seen. And just a perfect example is like, if you really don't crave that, you can have a very normal life and not get caught up and be in the middle. So Krasinski's kind of the same way. If you've listened to him much, very, very likable dude.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm really proud of my hometown and the way that folks come out of there.
It's kind of a blue collar-ish type of mentality, I think.
It definitely is. It's definitely Goodwill Hunting is the background of Affleck and Damon. I didn't come from Newton's not a blue collar town. My high school wasn't, so I'll be the first to tell you that.
Right.
But it definitely was a mindset. Mentality. You know, it's a little bit more highbrow than say a Pittsburgh, and not as cosmopolitan as New York. So it falls somewhere in between. And then there's just these hardcore New England towns. If you're a history buff, bro, how have you not done Boston? I mean, it emanates from every corner, from the Revolutionary War to the signing, of the Declaration of Independence on the side there, but just the building of our nation. Right. Take the Freedom Trail in Boston, and then just realizing what was going on the banks of Boston and the battles that were fought against the British. I mean, that's where it all happened.
Yeah, I did a recent. I'm gonna did a recent study, a little bit study. We'll do some more about the Mayflower itself. Just that whole deal is just so it's amazing to me to think about. You got these guys in late 1700s that just decide, you know what, we're just going to go across this ocean and do our thing.
Right.
You know, it's like nothing. I mean, they knew of everything they could die. Half the freaking crew died.
You want to talk about adventure.
Yeah.
We're like, we think, oh, I'm going to the Colorado River this summer. We're going to go rafting down the Colorado. That's going to be our adventure. We're going to go whitewater rafting, or our adventure is we're going to do the Appalachian Trail, which God bless if you can pull that off. Like this adventure was, we have no friggin' idea what's on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
We don't know where we're going to land.
We might get killed by natives. We don't know.
Right. And we probably won't make it there, right? Or half of it. And when we get there, we don't know what the friggin' hell is going to be going and what we're going to try to do.
Yeah.
But that's an adventure, right?
Oh.
That's an adventure as opposed to saying, I'm going to go 5 days without social media. That's not an adventure. Hopping on the Mayflower and saying, let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
That's an adventure.
Imagine like they get here, and then for the next month, they go up and down the coast. I read that, and they're just trying to figure out, hey, where are we going to actually land? I mean, nowadays you would be like, are we landing tomorrow? I mean, when do we get out of this boat? Right.
How do you, I mean, it just the level of boldness, right? Of those generations, and the generation that decides that we are going to break from England and we're going to go build our own, world and colony, and and we're going to settle somewhere else, and we're going to break free of our ruling party, and what that's going to look like, even though there's a good chance we're all going to be killed.
Yeah,
we're going to build a new nation. I mean, not to mention the heroes of World War I and World War II, and what was at stake, right?
Right.
I mean, what does our generation have at stake that we've every risk? What have we risked?
Oh my gosh, losing your TikTok account.
Huh?
Losing your TikTok account.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I mean, our generation, 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
What have we put on the line? We really put nothing on the line.
We're experiencing the fruits of their labors.
100%. I tell my kids on Veterans Day, or any of those, I said, like, especially if you're Jewish like I am, if you're a Jewish family in America, it's like, yeah, it's pretty simple. The greatest fighting force in the history of the world, the American military, basically went over and kicked butt and won the war, or every Jew in the world would have been gone. Like, the reason we're alive today is what happened with our military in World War II. Because make no mistake, Hitler was coming over here at some point.
Oh yeah.
And the plan would have been the same, right?
Oh yeah. World dominates.
Yeah, we're gonna eliminate every Jew in the world. So we wouldn't have even been under their rule. We would have been gone. And it's the American military and those World War II veterans that basically won the war to save humanity, and certainly save. If you're Jewish and you see what happened over there, 6 million aren't around, and they certainly were headed over here to do the same.
Well, as a Christian, I can tell you that to me, it's amazing to think about. Whenever I think about the founders, they get a lot of criticism nowadays. But when you think about they probably had more forethought than they even realized to create this document that allowed freedom to exist, so that even, people from, the Jewish society could come over to America and help, contribute to the freedom of America so that they can live and thrive in any other ethnicity.
Right. The forward thinking of the anticipation of where problems can arise.
Yeah.
And how you have to build a nation, equal for everybody there, contributing, building this mosaic. We're in a bashing season, a lot of historical figures. Right. But let's just talk about that document itself, the Declaration of Independence. And what does independence mean? For so many religions and cultures, that didn't exist other places.
No.
Right? You're Jewish, you were kicked out of every place in the world. You were just wandering the desert, literally, trying to land somewhere. And there's that persecution for every nationality and every race, every religion. Right. And then there's this one place that we say we're going to be a melting pot of welcoming everybody, as long as you contribute. As long as you contribute to the nation, everybody's welcome.
And it all started back there in New England, Rhode Island.
Get over there.
Yeah.
Get over there, for the love of God. How have you not been to Massachusetts?
Right.
I mean, there's no excuse. Next time we do this, when we do this podcast number 2, if you haven't been to Boston, I can't do it. I mean,
oh man,
no excuse.
you get. I mean, you know what? Point well taken, my friend. I went to. I'm a golly, typical Southerner. You know, I haven't been out of the South very much in my life. But you know, you mentioned New Englanders, and I think in a lot of ways, especially like the New Englanders, like like Boston, Massachusetts, they're a lot different than a lot of Southerners, but in a lot of ways they have a lot in common. You know, because you talked about comedians and so forth. I've known so many great military and comedians and so forth, and actors that are from the South just as well as from Boston.
Fierce and fiercely loyal.
Yeah.
To their where they're from, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Louis Grizzard comes to mind.
What's that?
I'm sorry, Louis Grizzard comes to mind.
Yeah. Oh, Louis Grizzard, one of the great writers. But I mean, how about Pat Conroy? So fiercely loyal to their hometowns.
Yeah.
And fiercely loyal to their cultures, right? Yeah. What is the culture of the South? And then just those weird accents, right? Yeah. Those weird relatives that makes for really, you know, nothing against the Midwest.
Yeah, yeah.
But the South and New Englanders, right? The way they talk. And
it's a great contrast.
Yeah. And sometimes you get confused with the Boston accent. Like, what are you talking about over there? And great dysfunctional families or characters makes for great comedy. And makes for great storytelling, right?
Mm-hmm. Jeff Foxworthy. I mean, good grief.
Yeah. I mean, Foxworthy is amazing. I just did a show with him called Riding Hungry, where we drive around town and I interview. It's kind of a podcast on the road, and then we end up at a restaurant. And maybe you can get a copy of that and include it when you put out the podcast, or I'll put it up there. But he is such a, you know, fascinating and simply the nicest guy that I've met hundreds of celebrities. There is nobody kinder than Jeff Foxworthy. Yeah. Charles Barkley's pretty close also. He is one of the most genuine, non-affected. I've been out with Foxworthy and I've been out with Barkley, and they get recognized, and like the complete opposite of, I can give you other athletes who are complete jerks, but they couldn't be more welcoming, engaging, you know, I saw Charles Barkley having dinner one night, and some poor guy was off to the side, kind of looking at him and, you know, ducking in and kind of, you know, you could tell like nervous to approach. And Charles is like, "Hey, what's up, buddy? What's your name? Come on over here. Your name's Dennis? All right. Hey, Dennis." Shakes his hand, you know, like, "How you doing? Thank you for coming over." Like, the dude went from, you know, he was so nervous to approach, and it was such a kind, welcoming gesture. And he doesn't have an entourage. He doesn't travel with anybody. He is just completely approachable. And by the way, has very little issues, right? It's these celebs that think they need to surround themselves, who aren't half as famous, that are so caught up in their own celebrity or pseudo celebrity. And then you're around a guy like Foxworthy, who, you know, I was at a pizza place with him, and Charles, and they're like, we're all, I mean, literally, we're just all the same. We're just human beings out here having to have a meal. And I just happen to have a cooler, not a cooler job, a more high profile job, right? My job is more high profile. It doesn't make me any more, you know, interesting or better than you. That's really the way guys like that think.
Right, man. I may have to get you to Foxworthy. He's a tough guy. He's another tough guy to get for a podcast, because I know he's so busy touring all the time.
You know, come on, you got to stick with C-level celebrities like me. You'll be fine.
I tell you, but I've heard many good things about Foxworthy. He did a not to get on subject of Foxworthy, but he did a talk for some organization at my church one time, and I just, you know, I kind of went over to where he was in the little auditorium just to see, hey, is he going to be, maybe I can get a chance to meet him or whatever. And like, there was literally lines of people just trying to meet the guy. I mean, so he definitely is still relevant to a lot of people.
Oh my God, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just thinking about that contrast and thinking that so many cool people and actors are from either New England or, you know, the South a lot of times.
South Carolina, Louisiana, Georgia.
Yeah.
I would say not well, South Carolina, I think of Pat Conroy, but not as much. Florida doesn't count.
Right.
And Mississippi's got some great writers, obviously, Mississippi. So we put them in.
And Alabama turns out a lot of great people. Think about Gomer Pyle. I mean,
okay,
he was from Alabama.
and Charles Barkley from Alabama, right?
Oh man, Charles is larger than life, isn't he?
Yep.
Wow.
So
is Ernie Johnson Jr. Have you met him before? He seems like a nice guy.
who?
Ernie Johnson Jr.
Oh my God, he's just, I mean, beyond.
His dad was one of my favorite broadcasters.
Ernie, I've been lucky enough to meet him many times. He's been on the show dozens of times. You talk about a guy that doesn't take himself seriously in terms of like, I mean, he is, and, he's got that great relationship with his son who is, very, very disabled. I did a lot of work with Camp Twin Lakes. I served on the board. His son was at Camp Twin Lakes. That's the camp out in Rutledge, Georgia, that every week takes care of different kids with serious disabilities and handicaps. His son's in a wheelchair, and and it's the one time a year you can leave your son and have an amazing week. And Ernie and I are both big supporters of Camp Twin Lakes.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so you've been in Atlanta since the 90s, right, or 80s?
Mid-90s, 1995. So man, it's 26 years now. Came here at about 29 years old. So, raised my family here. I got a 16-year-old, met my wife here, started 2 companies here, been on radio and TV here for, Atlanta's been an amazing town. I've watched the evolution from Buckhead when I first moved here and did my radio show every Thursday in Buckhead at the East Village Grill. Every Friday I did my show from American Pie on Roswell Road.
I remember that place.
Yeah, I was single in this town. I've been married in this town. I've watched, the nightmarish recent crime wave that's overtaken our city, which has been very, upsetting. But I also watched the economic boom this city. I've watched the racial strife of the city, and then I watch, great unity. It's a fascinating dichotomy of so many different things happening at once in Atlanta. So. And no shortage of content to talk about. We're the epicenter of the political world, no doubt.
Well, just thinking about Boston versus Atlanta, golly, I don't even know where you would start to like compare and contrast. Like, it's got to be such a different world in Boston.
Well, so I grew up in the most liberal home that you could grow up in, right? Around the corner from the Kennedys, like Brookline, we live in Newton. So my parents worshiped the Kennedys, Teddy and Jack, and knew their, that whole mystique, not the dad. And we were, Mike Dukakis, and voted the only state that voted for McGovern was Massachusetts, right? And then I married a woman from Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana, who is as red as it gets. The red, the state, like the area,
right.
Gun, freewheeling, gun toting, Southerners to the core from Lafayette, Louisiana, and Cajun. Her maiden name was Gautier, or the Zimmer, but her mom's name was Gautier. So, they're living hard right. My family was living hard left. We got married 18 years ago in New Orleans. There wasn't one even thought that folks weren't going to get along and love each other and have an amazing time. And like the notion of political, like, no, who cares? Like, they're Republicans, we're Democrats. They're probably, pro, one's gun control, one is like, hardcore, what is it, Second Amendment, First Amendment, right?
Right, Second Amendment, gun control.
Second Amendment. So like, my in-laws think that I'm this, hardcore socialist, pinko probably, right? And my mom is like, you moved down there and now you're a right-wing zealot. You know what I mean? Like, I live in the middle. Like, I live right here.
Yeah.
I hear all the nonsense from the left, how liberal and elitist and out of touch. And then I hear, the whole rhetoric and Fox News just bleeding into your brain nonstop, that every issue has to be spun a certain way. And I think most of us, if we're not exposed to that massive social media unrest or the MSNBCs and Fox News of the world, I think live here. That's where I try to live, right? I mean, I like Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia. I'm thrilled what he did for us. Also, um, I like Kasim Reed, even though he's had some issues, but I like what he's going to do in terms of I had dinner with Kasim Reed, who told me like one of his best friends was Nathan Deal, the governor of Georgia.
Hmm.
Like Nathan Deal was a governor, he was a Republican. Kasim Reed was a hardcore Democrat, friends with Obama. They're like, if it's good for the city of Atlanta, it's good for the state of Georgia. They brought more business here. They fought crime. They brought businesses. They didn't let this political divide, and Atlanta thrived, right? And now, and I watched him lecture a bunch of Democrats and constituents. Like, you think it's a good thing to fight with the governor? You think that's good for the state? You think that Buckhead wanting to secede is a good thing, or like you want to fight that? Like common sense. And so I tell you that story because I grew up in I've been exposed to both worlds. Their people aren't any different. They want good things for their family. They want to have a good job. They want to be healthy, and they want America to thrive. And they may have different thoughts on certain issues. And I do believe the former president did help stir things up quite a bit. But the liberals have certainly stirred it up just as badly, and the Trumpers have done the same. But that most of us, I was just in Tucker. I filmed a bunch of stuff in Tucker the other day. What a great downtown Tucker. This beautiful gay couple owns the coffee shop, and then right next door is like a hardcore old Southern Matthews cafeteria.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of Republicans and rolling through there and conservative ideals. And then down the street, there's a hot new, vegan spot. And I'm thinking like, nobody here gives a shit about politics. They just love being together in a downtown, and, African-American and gay and conservative and older. And you get so immersed in the rhetoric from social media and TV that you think we're all basically one step away from a civil war.
Yeah. Isn't that the thing though? Like that parents more often than not need to teach their kids is how to be a free thinker and think for yourself, and look at an issue or look at the law or whatever, and come up to your own conclusions based on your own research and knowledge guided by experience.
Yeah, and listen, I understand the pushback against the liberal agenda in schools, that now kids are coming home saying we're racists and we are and they're talking about white privilege. They don't really understand what it means, and then the parents are getting all fired up, and of course there's a liberal bias with educators and have been for years, and for liberals to not acknowledge that is wrong. And then the same time is parents trying to convince their kids on these on these right-wing ideals on the other end of it, instead of now kids are afraid. Now there's such a liberal bias in schools. And you're talking a guy who grew up in Massachusetts, but you got to be able to have conservative views and be in a college campus or a high school and not be persecuted for it, right? And it feels like you're not allowing people to just have real tangible opinions. That's their opinion. It's like doing sports talk radio. Like, we're going to debate, we're going to debate Kobe versus LeBron, or we're going to debate Bird versus Magic. Like, guess what? I'm going to talk louder than you. I'm going to have a ton of statistics, right? Yeah. I'm going to explain to you that, how many titles Magic had. He had his 5 and Bird had his 3, and Michael's had his 6. And here's why that, LeBron doesn't matter. And nobody is right. It's an opinion. You're not like, it's like, how can you say that, Steak? Well, I can say that because I'm paid to have an opinion, and I'm talking really loud, and I'm supposed to be dramatic, and it's a performance. But I don't for a second think there's a right answer, right? Is Kobe better than I can be convinced. I love a great argument. I love watching debates. I'll be the first to tell you, you can sway me real easily with a convincing and articulate and impassioned, explanation. I tried to learn more about the voting, the voting right stuff that was going on, and in Georgia. And I have liberal friends telling me it absolutely was trying to, prevent the African Americans from voting, and there was all kinds of voter fraud. And I was like, I was like, okay, it's not a right. And then I'm talking to conservatives who explained to me there's absolutely nothing wrong with the laws. Go deeper into it and read more about it. And my point is, I don't know where I landed, but I landed where there were some really good cases on both sides. And I happen to be someone that is totally open to listening to both sides and trying to figure out which way to go. I don't walk into an issue saying, well, if that's the Republican or conservative mindset, or that's the Stacey Abrams mindset, I'm going to back either one of those, arbitrarily. Like, I don't know, explain it to me a little bit more. What is not being able to serve someone a water? Why is that racist? Like, I don't understand it. So explain it to me. Right. So, or the other, that's what the notion that you can't give them gifts while they're in line or give them water is actually a racist, like whatever. And I'm not going to here to get into the voting right agenda.
Yeah.
But like, there's some arguments on both sides. I'd like to hear them, So I don't know. I think a lot more people are like that than you think.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to like, I support Clay Travis and everything he says and Sean Hannity, or I support the Lincoln Project and everything they say, which is, bashing Republicans. Like, I think most of us live closer to the middle. At least, my next iteration of doing radio or talk or podcast, I'll try to, not be afraid to, listen, I was in a sports talk radio scenario where you weren't allowed to give any kind of political opinion. I get it. I think you want everybody to like you, or at least not think of you as a Republican or a Democrat. I don't think I'll go back to the format if I can't be a little more open.
I think that one of the things that frustrates me is that a lot of people think that you have to fall somewhere, like on every issue, like, or whatever, like for instance, we'll use gun control or gun rights. You have to fall on one side or the other. Maybe you don't, it's like people throw nuance out the window nowadays,
it's like of course we all believe in your right to bear arms. Absolutely. And nobody's coming to get your guns. Maybe what the Democrats are saying is you can nuance some of these laws a little bit, right? It doesn't mean nobody was coming to take your guns. Joe Biden didn't come get your guns. That didn't happen. I don't hear that on the campaign trail, right? But maybe there are ways to modify some of these rules. And obviously the power of the NRA is such that it's going to be difficult to get anything done. And why can't you acknowledge that and still be a moderate or a Republican that doesn't agree with all of it, right?
And not cancel your adversary for that matter.
Right. I mean, listen, this is a completely new era.
Right.
You can't have where families, no question, it's not rhetoric. Tens of thousands of families have been torn apart by their political ideology in the last 4 years. And that was driven by the White House rhetoric, I believe. Whether I happen to agree with Donald Trump on a lot of his policies, but the vitriol that he created, that literally families, it's not like a hyperbole. They have been divided, that they don't speak anymore because the wrong thing was said at the wrong time, or liberals can't get over that their parents voted for Trump and liberals cannot come to terms with it. And they're losing their friggin' mind. And that, now that didn't exist. First of all, you weren't even supposed to talk about politics in those scenarios with family.
Right.
And all that, right. Religion, politics.
Yeah, or the old rules.
Right. So it's loony. Listen, I think I would have been fine in that marriage if it happened today with the, conservatives from Louisiana, with the liberals from Massachusetts. But I don't know if the liberals came down there all masked up and the conservatives are like, screw the vaccine and screw the masks. I don't know that there may not have been some kind of uncomfortableness with all of us together. I don't know that we would have done a destination wedding, but I don't know. I mean, I think we still would have been fine because we're all like-minded and but that's real. The division of family, forget about the country, just not being able to get along with people. My brother doesn't want to get vaxxed. I can't even speak to him anymore. I can't go away with him to, on a trip, or we can't go to his home. And then the mask stuff. I mean, it really is painfully, it's just, like my mom watching CNN and there's another variant coming about. And I said to her, like, how much do you want to watch?
Yeah.
You spent you listen, you can turn on every day and find something to freak out about.
Right.
I mean, they'll provide some fear, and I'm not just bashing CNN.
Yeah.
Like, I got a lot of stuff to worry about in my life. I got my 3 kids, got my job. I have 16 people working for me here at Atlanta Eats. I got my health. Like, I don't let that be, those are how I check the box of how I'm doing in life.
Yeah.
Don't
let the news, don't let the nightly news dictate.
Or that my candidate got elected or did not.
Yeah. Or the social media.
So for a lot of people, if your candidate lost, you went into a depression of epic proportion, particularly liberals when Trump got elected. And, I would be like, if he gets elected, okay. If he doesn't, okay, guess what? I got to drive my kid to school tomorrow. I got to get a sales campaign sold to, one of my biggest clients here in Atlanta. I got to make sure I get a workout in because, I gained 10 pounds or whatever. Like, those are the top of my list. And life did not change. And by the way, I'd argue the economy did not change. Economy is booming under Biden. The economy was booming under Trump. The president's not affecting a lot of that. The fear that Trump is going to do this and the fear that Biden, I don't think a lot of those things came to fruition. I guess you could argue the liberal agenda of Biden has been powerful, and Trump's conservative agenda had a lot of impact. But I don't know. I got other things to worry about in my life than that.
Yeah. Well, I know you're busy, and before you go, I do want to touch on Atlanta Eats and the Braves maybe before you go.
Yeah, let's do it.
I got my Brave shirt on, by the way. Atlanta Eats. How's that going? How's things going with that?
Amazing. 400,000 or 500,000 people that follow us every week. We have the best local TV show in America. We've won 5 Emmy Awards. Local restaurant show in America. Food Network does a great job. They don't cover one city. We're at a local production house. People love the show because we celebrate Atlanta. We celebrate, I started the company because I love going out to eat with my friends and family, and the greatest memories in the world are around a dinner table to me, of connection, drinks, and food. And that joy for that comes through in the brand, I think. So the brand's doing extremely well. #1 social media in the city for food. TV shows done great. All kinds of content we're creating. So we have 14 people working for us, and that 8 of them are just doing content. And then so we're thrilled. We're looking at other markets. We're creating national shows.
Nice.
We have a site called American Eats. So Americans-eats.com. We've got 15 other cities we're covering now: Denver, San Diego, Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago. So go to American Eats to learn more about that. Go to Atlanta Eats. So it's doing outstanding. It's a great pivot this next phase of my professional life running this company.
I'm not saying this just to, schmooze you or whatever, but I do think that Atlanta Eats is it's probably the best local show you can find in Atlanta, easily.
Yeah, no, I think it's the best local show. I put us up against any city in America that doesn't have a show that looks like ours, So, and I was on the Food Network. I did 2 shows for the Food Network as a judge. And I'll put us up against them. So yeah, brand's going amazing. And hopefully everybody follows us, Atlanta Eats TV, and follows myself.
Yeah.
I got a lot of food stuff going on too.
I was about to say, is there anything we can look forward to on Atlanta Eats that might be coming down the pipeline?
So just filming all new fresh content. The new site is American Eats. That's a great deal. That's it. Yeah, just keep following all kinds of social sites. Sorry, my daughter's blowing me up from school, so I got to call her soon.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hit the Braves then.
The Braves. I mean, you want to know what a city looks like because of sports? Look at Atlanta right now. The whole city's come together. It's the most. It's brought us all. It's galvanized us. It's united us. It's a phenomenal story. The spontaneity of sports is why it's the most interesting thing in the world to cover. It's the ultimate reality. Nobody would have thought a guy named Eddie Rosario become a local hero. Nobody knew that Tyler Matzik was an electrician how many years ago?
Oh my gosh. I forgot about that.
The combination of personality veterans like Freddie Freeman and Dansby and then the new blood, it's spectacular. I think they're gonna have a hard time though, because I don't know when this is gonna air, but losing Charlie Morton for a series is not a good thing. I think it's 50-50.
Yeah. I'm going to put it up tonight. So
50-50 that we win this series. I don't think we should have been a big underdog. We're the hottest team in baseball for 2 months.
Yeah.
But losing Charlie Morton, if there's a game 6 and 7, that could have an effect for sure.
Oh man. That's what I was going to ask you, is how bad that's going to hurt us losing Charlie last night.
it's going to hurt. You're going to have to hit the crap out of the ball and win 2 out of 3 or all 3 in Truist Park, right?
Right.
If you lose 2 out of 3, you got to win 2 in Houston. You don't have Charlie Morton. I don't think that's going to happen. You could get hot offensively. If Rosario has another series like that and Austin Riley keeps hitting, you could win 3 in a row. But I would doubt it. So I think it's going to go back to Houston. And I think that it'll go 6 or 7 games. And I think not having Charlie Morton, if we lose the series in 7, and everyone will say the broken leg in game 1 killed us because we had to pitch we had to pitch guys we didn't want to pitch, in scenarios you didn't want to pitch them, So now you have an extra bullpen game, or now you're going to start Drew Smiley, or now, I don't follow as close as when I was doing sports talk every day, right. But I know the rotation. But it's even money, man. It's 50-50 right now. Like, I don't know what Vegas's number is. 3 out of 5 series, 3 of the games are in Atlanta where the home field. I'd say if you bet right now and anybody can go online, I'd say it's probably even money both ways on the series.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think that's kind of how I figured it as well. I'm kind of calling, I'm a hopeful 6 games. Braves take it. That's where I'm hoping, because I'm biased, but
I think if it goes back to Houston, they win game 6. So it's 3-3. And then I give Atlanta, just like the Hawks won game 7 on the road. It'll be the year of winning on the road, and the Braves win game 7, maybe a 2 home run game from Freddie Freeman or Ozzie Albies has like a 3-for-5 night, and we beat Houston like 7-3 in game 7.
I talked to this with another friend a while back. A lot of times, and I don't know if this will happen this series, but it's amazing how somebody comes above the fray that usually doesn't. And I'm thinking Mark Lemke is the best case in point.
Well,
I'm hoping we get one of those out.
He hit 420 and was the MVP.
Yeah.
But Eddie Rosario hit 540, and nobody knew who that guy's name was a few months ago. So
let's hope.
Those are the guys.
I'm hoping
Eddie
he turns
Rosario,
it up.
He just did it.
Yeah.
I mean, he won the Dodgers series.
Yeah, exactly.
I won the series. That at bat that he had in game 6.
Oh man,
was otherworldly.
Yeah.
3-run homer. I mean, that was it. You're a 1-1 game. That 3-run homer won it. No question.
And what's his the relief pitcher Maddox? Is it Max? It's not Maddox.
Tyler Matzik.
Yeah, that pitching performance. My gosh.
Second and third, 4-2, 2 fly balls, and it's a 4-4 game. And you strike out the side. It's friggin' ridiculous.
He earned every dollar.
Yeah, and you're not paying him a lot, so he'll earn his dollars for next year because that's where he's earning money.
Yeah. Well, Steak, I'm going to let you go, man. I totally appreciate you coming on, brother.
How did we do compared to other guests?
Oh man, great. Yeah, absolutely. Great. I love good conversation and just talking about whatever's on our mind, man. And if you want to come back on, I'll have you on sometime.
When you go to Boston, not until then.
Oh, dang it. Yeah. How's Boston in the wintertime, like Christmas? Should I go during Christmas?
Friggin' cold.
Yeah. Maybe I have to wait till the spring.
No, go in the spring and go to Fenway Park and go to the Freedom Trail in Fenway. All right. Rock and roll, brother.
All right. Thanks, sir. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.